Hi, this is Beth Alcazar, Associate Editor with the USCCA, and on today's Pacifiers and Peacemakers, we're going to go back to the basics. Before we begin, I just want to make sure that everyone sees that we have a clear unloaded firearm. There is not even a magazine in the gun today, and I will not be using it. This is just for demonstration purposes. Now, today I said that we're going back to the basics, and what I mean by that is one of the most important basic rules of gun safety is that you should always keep your muzzle pointed in a safe direction. Now, I like to say keep it in the safest direction, because sometimes people aren't quite sure what that is. We know that safe direction isn't up and it isn't down, and we know that it certainly isn't pointing at someone or something, so where should we keep that gun pointed? If you're at the shooting range, that's usually easy. You're going to keep it pointed downrange at the target. But you also need to consider if you are cleaning your gun or if you are moving your gun or transporting it, where is the safest direction possible? And is your muzzle pointed that way? Now, I like to tell people that one of the easiest things to remember so that you can keep that muzzle pointed downrange is to imagine a magnet at the end of the muzzle. A very strong magnet that is always pulling you toward the target. So even though I can move my head, I can even move my body, I can even turn the gun, I'm making sure that people know that the muzzle does not move. So when you're racking the slide, or when you're dealing with possibly a malfunction, or if you're simply reloading, that magnet is always pulling you toward that safe direction at all times. For those who are maybe needing a little bit better of a visual aid, I know that some of our trainers and instructors like to say, imagine that there's a laser beam coming out of the end of the muzzle going indefinitely. Well, that's a great idea, but if you actually want to picture that, you can see it right now. We have inserted a dowel into the end of the barrel, and again, I don't recommend putting anything in front of the gun, but this is a cleared gun for training purposes. But now you can see that I have a very clear visual aid, a very good understanding as well of where that firearm is actually pointed. If you hit anything, obviously, not a safe direction. And of course, having that extension is just a good way to kind of train yourself that you need to be very cautious, and you might not realize that something down further on is actually in the way of where that indefinite laser would be and in the way of where that bullet would travel. Remember that you are always responsible for every bullet that leaves your gun. So another way to think about muzzle management is to imagine that the bullet is traveling down the barrel right now. That means, again, safe direction at all times, no matter what. Now, since we're in this safe space with an unloaded firearm and you can see the dowel, I'm going to over-exaggerate some movements that I sometimes see on the firing line, especially, again, with those newer shooters. They seem to be fine here when they shoot, but then they're like, oh my gosh, that was great. Again, we're in a safe space and I'm over-exaggerating, but my gun now, my muzzle, not in a safe direction. Or you might have people turning to show or to talk. You know, they're so excited, but this dowel could be a great visual representation of what is happening. In fact, you can even use a dowel in maybe a toy gun or something where maybe you need to practice at home and see what those movements are like. So again, you can be more sure that you are safe at all times and you're not just inadvertently sweeping others or possibly aiming a gun somewhere you do not want to. Hopefully this little visual aid and this little magnet idea helps you remember and helps you practice one of the most important gun safety rules. Keep that muzzle pointed in a safe direction at all times. Thanks for watching today. Until next time, stay safe and be well armed.